Way to go, Ohio. That's awesome. Great news. Great, great news to see. Yeah, let's do this. Kind of had to turn off my echo. Hey, Jay, see you in chat. I don't know if anybody else will show up, but I just felt like I had to get on here and say a little something because it's still got my echo. It's big on my echo. It's pissing me off. Huh. This is very weird. Why am I hearing myself? Well, I'll just take these earphones out for the present. I'll just, maybe I'll just close this tab. Is there an echo in the chat? Oh, mute me in the bot and gather. Oh my god. Yeah, I think I'll just get the heck out of gather. What the heck? That'll do it. Jeez. Too many places to go. Okay, great. Hold on. Sorry. I am so effing bad at this. Wait. I'm gonna get the hell out of here. There we go. Phew. Phew. Hey, Andrew, what's going on? Well, I'll tell you what's going on. The state of Ohio had an election today that the Republicans actually they outlawed having summertime elections like the first week in August, and then they decided they needed to have an election in first week in August, a special election. The purpose of the special election was to make it a requirement. Let's see. Yeah, that solved the problem. Now, if anybody comes in, I can actually hear them and me, and that'll be good. So yeah, they made it so you couldn't have special elections in the summertime because guess what? Nobody's around in the summertime. Like I wouldn't be here tonight if it weren't for the fact that thunderstorms precluded sailing. But huge turnout in the special election that was held that would have made it a requirement to get 60% of the vote in order to pass a constitutional amendment. By the way, I need to turn on another light in the studio because it's dark in here. I'm making it in order to change the Constitution, which is a 50+1 vote at current in the state of Ohio through referendum. They wanted to make it 60%. Why? Because there's a citizens initiative on the ballot for November, scheduled on the ballot for November, that passed the last time, or that got enough signatures to be placed on the November ballot, to restore abortion rights in the state of Ohio and reproductive rights. Hey, Jasper, nice to see you. And so the Republicans changed the law so that they could have a special election, counting on the fact that nobody'd show up. Summertime, busy, everybody's busy. Well, they seem to have miscalculated because let's just get this thing up there. Because not that tab, this tab. Here we go.
Able to talk to everyday people and get them to turn out and vote no.
Well, we have some breaking news. The Associated Press has now called it. They have now called the race. We can call that issue 1 in Ohio that would have raised the threshold for constitutional amendments to 60% has gone down to a defeat, according to the Associated Press. That's the news organization we're using to make the call. A pretty stunning rebuke here, not unexpected given what we've seen in the last hour, but now we have it official, David. I mean, this was there was some real hubris on the part of Republican lawmakers, the Secretary of State of your state, the gerrymandered legislature, to try to do this. Do you think there's lessons here? Do you think they will get the message here? And what does it set up for the fall?
They didn't get the message in Michigan when they ran on a campaign of total anti-woke bullshit on a total of on a platform of anti-trans, on a platform of anti-abortion, on a platform of a whole bunch of stuff. I gotta tell you, folks, this is the first ray of hope I've seen in a while, despite all of the Florida governor going all around the country saying I'm gonna defeat woke, despite all of the crap out of criminal Trump's mouth that's picking up on the okey doke that DeSantis is putting down. Between the two of them, trying to show who the biggest asshole is in the bunch. This is just so great because I think it was over 2/3 of the vote was in, and this special referendum was going down with over 63% of the vote voting no. It gives me some hope. And let's face it, Ohio's a red state. Really is. I mean, you've got Sherrod Brown out there. I mean, any Ohioans welcome to come in. I pinned the link on the top. I'm going to make this an open room, but I just needed to get on and feel excited about something, and hopeful. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to do something depressing in just a second, but after this, let's just see what else Chris has to say.
They won't learn them. I mean, this group, my worry, whenever they lose, they double down their lawlessness. This is already very gerrymandered legislature. I don't expect them to learn any lessons. But the good news here is that this is part of a longer winning streak for democracy that started last August in Kansas, included some big state house wins in November, the Wisconsin Supreme Court race. There's a pro-democracy army building in this country, and it's starting to figure out that the front line of the attack on democracy are the states and the state houses. And when it sees democracy under attack in these places, this included election denying running super state candidates, it's rallying around these races. And so my sort of call out to those who are doing this, keep seeing the attack for democracy as a deeper level in the state level. And if you rally like we've done in all these states for the last year, we can put together one heck of a winning streak long term, but we've got to focus beyond just a few federal swing states into all these states where the other side has dominated for too long. Take advantage.
Now I know my audience is probably old enough to remember Howard Dean and the Dean Screen, but that man, former governor of Vermont, had this thing. When he was the head of the Democratic National Committee, he had this thing. He called it the 50-state strategy. You know what the result of that was? Barack Obama. We can't leave any state behind. We can't leave Florida behind. We can't leave Texas behind. We can't leave Ohio behind. We can't leave Kansas and Oklahoma and Nebraska and all of these states that have been absolutely crushed by this endless stream of hatred and fear pumped out of our media saying you're powerless, saying, pushing the Christo-fascist nonsense that we are seeing in coded words and sometimes not so coded words. We can't give up. We have to convince our neighbors that there is a possibility. For something better. We have to convince our media to do better. We have to convince people who think of themselves as skeptics and rationalists. We have to convince them to do better, to not leave off human rights at this is where I draw the line. We just have to. And I think we do it by being positive. Roll on a little bit longer here. This guy.
To the fact that we haven't seen the battle there. When we rally and we pay attention, which we did here, we can win in Kansas, Ohio, Wisconsin, you name it. Because in the end, most people in America want a functioning democracy. They don't want what the Republicans of Ohio are arrogantly trying to create here.
Yeah, we should say we don't have the final results, but no tracking to come in double digits above, the numbers of, say, Democratic state candidate in the 2020 election. I mean, it's going to be a large margin, much higher. And the other lesson it strikes me here, just that we've seen this time and time again, the media focus may waver from time to time about abortion rights, but voters have shown themselves that they will crawl over broken glass, coast to coast, state to state, to repudiate the Dobbs decision and the banning of abortion, the taking away of that right. It keeps happening, and I think it's going to keep happening a lot more. Tonight's another turning point in that. Jim Miller, David Pepper, thank you.
Jen Miller led the campaign. That's why she's smiling. Makes me very happy. Makes me very, very happy. It's just such great news.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, MSNBC. Yeah, that news just broke, and so that makes me very, very happy. This next thing's gonna made me very, very mad. This happened like 3 days ago. Bill Maher interviewed Riley Gaines, and for those of you who don't know who the hell Riley Gaines are, well, you probably don't care about swimming. And she don't care about swimming or women's sports or anything else. But she was a teammate of Leah Thomas, who didn't much like Leah. And Bill, decided that a woman who was an outspoken opponent of trans women having full opportunity to participate in every aspect of life, including sport. She's been on this tip for the past year. Going everywhere, going to right wing, going to, CPAC, hanging out with Donald Trump, hanging out with all this, all these folks. And now, where does she wind up? She winds up here. Right? Let's see. Let me see where we are here. Oh, yeah, I got you there. Got you there, babe. You go. You go, girl. You're so awesome. All right. Let's see.
Truthfully, it's hard to tell satire versus not satire anymore.
That's a very good
So
point.
how can you tell if they're really in on the joke? Because if you would have, take what we went through, for example, I would have thought when
Poor
the
dear.
NCAA said Leah Thomas could compete with the women, I would have thought they were in on the joke.
No, wait.
But they are the joke. The
let's-
NCAA is the joke. Leah Thomas is the joke.
Okay, let's back up for the people who don't know who Leah Thomas is. I do, because I've read about her. She is the trans swimmer who beat you.
We tied. I did not get beat.
We tied. So you're going coast to coast saying that you tied in your record, in your swimming career with Leah at Penn. I thought Leah was going to kill women's sport somehow. I thought Leah somehow was dominating somehow. But here you are telling me you tied. Guess that meant you had competition, Riley, right? Competition? Isn't that what it's called? And you tied, which means you outperformed her sometimes, didn't you? And probably other women outperformed you like they did a lot. I'm going to clue you in a little bit on Leah Thomas's record. She won in a race, the 500-meter freestyle, which is not a race that is even sanctioned by FINA, which is the Fédération Internationale Nautique. And I can't remember what the A stands for in Le Français, and my French is terrible anyway. But anywho, it's not even recognized in FINA. It's not really on the program. It is in the NCAA, and that's the race Leah won last year. That's also the race that another woman at Penn eclipsed her record by a substantial margin. I might have this wrong. I thought it was 5 seconds, but I actually do think it was 0.5 of a second. But in swimming, it's a lot. It's a lot. And I forget the woman's name that set it turned into an Ivy League record, and I think it was something substantial. I think it was more than 0.5 of a second. Can't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, Riley, we tied. But I see that if I rail against Leah, people will pay me to come on these programs. And they'll not smile and wave and nod. Like this. Like this. What like this.
I get called.
No, beat you in the locker room with her big cock.
There we go. And that
That's so fucking funny, Bill. I'm so fucking proud of you. You're just showing that you're not woke. You're not woke. Let's go back there just a second, Bill. Let's see. She did not beat me.
Beat you?
we tied. I did not get beat. I get called.
No, beat you in the locker room with her big cock.
There we go.
There we go.
In that case.
How big is her cock?
Well,
You've seen her cock, right?
That Bill Maher, he's such a comic. He's such a comic. Isn't he funny how he likes talking about trans women's genitals? Like he wants to really kind of, maybe he wants to get into some of that girl dick. I don't know. What do you think, Bill? Think you can make this last long enough, or do you need another? You need another a little shot of bourbon or whatever the hell you've got in your glass over there? Huh? Huh? Wait a minute. What'd you ask again? Wait a sec. I just need to figure this out.
How big is her cock?
Well,
You've seen her cock, right?
We all did.
How big is it? I mean, what kind of a cock is it? Describe her cock.
I mean, when Riley Gaines is making Bill Maher look like an asshole, I don't know what's wrong with the world. I'll be honest. It's just yeah, I'm really not sure. Um yeah, it's curious. But but I think maybe, just maybe, Riley has it in her to top Bill. Hold on a second.
Let's see.
Well, I don't want to see it. I just wanted to hear it
Well,
described.
if I had to see it, you have to hear it. First of all, this is a 6'4" man, right?
well, a
6'4",
trans woman.
a male.
Okay, this is what.
See how respectful Bill is towards trans rights right now, and towards trans women in general. He's so respectful because, there's that girl dick. There's such respect.
She would claim, and she does go through life as a woman, correct? Like
A woman with male parts.
yeah, right. I know. I'm just trying to like paint the portrait.
Okay, wait, can I? I'll be frank here. I don't use she, her pronouns when referring to Thomas, and I call it a male. I think even using.
Wait just a sec. Wait just a sec, Riley. Let's just think for a sec. Just hold on.
Frank here. I don't use she, her pronouns when referring to Thomas, and I call it a male. I think even use she, her pronouns when referring to Thomas, and I call it a male. I use she, her pronouns when referring to Thomas, and I call it a male. I think
Let me think. You call the woman who helped your team be the best in the Ivies, who you tied with. Okay, well, just say you and Leah were teammates. Your team did really well. Almost as well, I think, as well as Yale that year, where a trans man by the name of Isaac, whose name I forget because I'm not big into swimming that much. I pay attention every now and again, but he was winning meets. Maybe you would rather have had Isaac transfer to Penn so he could sail with you on the women's team. I mean, he doesn't have a dick. He has a deep voice and facial hair. And he's missing boobs. Shit. How's that work? What are you gonna do there? What would you call it? What would you call it?
use she, her pronouns when referring to Thomas, and I call it a male. I think even using the term trans woman is giving Thomas some of our language as women. And I think.
Yeah, well, you suppose Isaac's in it too, hon? What about you, Bill? What about you? What do you call it?
Trans woman is a subset of male. I do not believe trans women are women, and so I'm saying that up front on the record.
No, I'm basically on that page. I think,
okay,
of course, a trans is a true phenomenon. There are some people who are,
That's
and I'm
nice
sure
of
this
you.
is the wrong phrasing, but people know what I mean, born in the wrong body.
Right.
All you know about trans people is the bullshit you read, the bullshit you hear, the utter bullshit. And you know what you do with it? You know what that you do with that bullshit? You take that bullshit and you take it and put it on your club random podcast with your 431,000 subscribers, and this video got 504,000 views in 3 days. So, this is my righteous rant here. It's like, I am so, so, so happy that Ohio, and by 60+%, is telling the Republicans to go F themselves when it comes to trying to derail the popular sentiment to restore abortion rights, to restore reproductive rights, to restore a measure of bodily autonomy within the confines of the state of Ohio. Despite your fucking efforts here, Bill Riley. Riley is a Trump voter. There are literally pictures of Riley, I think it was at CPAC, shaking hands with the guy. But Bill is sitting here equivocating. Bill is the perfect example of the guy who will talk about affording people respect, about that it's a real thing, like he just said, that being trans is a real phenomenon among human beings, and yet he will let someone sit in that chair for over 500,000 people to watch and call a person it, when Leah does not use it pronouns. Somebody wants to do that, that's fine. But you would never do that. And Riley's sitting there basically saying, I don't care. I would never call a trans person anything other than their gender assigned at birth, unless, of course, she didn't know. Which is the funniest thing, but she probably can always tell.
They really do feel and want to be the sex they were not born. I get that. And those people should be protected and respected. That is my
Right.
position.
It shows an awful lot of the way, how far you will go to protect the feelings of trans people, and respect trans people when your guest just called us its. Yeah.
As a one-issue candidate running for governor. No, protected and respected. But I also agree with you that it is a different category. It is not the same thing as women. And you hear women all the time, and not just conservative women, who say, I am being erased.
Right.
And what I do and way I have walked through life is different enough. There's there's difference in
All right, get this idiot off my screen. I mean, for heaven's sake, this, this is a, this is kind of a painful topic, because, as Bill said, not just Republicans, not just conservative, there are folks in our community who will be extremely supportive of trans people, trans women, until their particular line is crossed. And most frequently, in my experience, that particular line is sports, which causes me a great deal of pain. I can count on one hand the trans women sailing, participating in my sport at a world championship level. I can count them on one hand. I can name them, and that's including me. I can count. It would take more than my fingers and toes, a lot more than my fingers and toes, to name cis women who would kick our ass on the race course. Some of them I learned from. I learned how a woman achieves success in sailing, achieves success in sport, because one of the things I think just about every sport, up until throughout my upbringing and growing up, and until very recently, every woman in sport was looked at something like an other. If you weren't a cheerleader, it's like, well, you play field hockey, you must be one of those. You're athletic, you must be one of those. So I, pre-transition, post-transition, when people knew my past history, didn't know my past history, didn't matter. When people would say sexist bullshit on the race course, I'm sitting there calling them on the race on the sexist bullshit they're saying on the race course. And I'm doing everything in my power to encourage women, talented young women, to get into the sport and to excel in the sport. And some of those kids are beating my ass today. And some of those kids are beating guys' ass in the day, and I couldn't be prouder. I was so proud when the Stanford sailing team, with 2 crews at the national championship, both skipper and helm women, won the national championship in intercollegiate sailing by over 20 points. They were that good. They were that fast. They were that smart. And they had a lot of fun. And the men on their team, all 4 of them, 12 on the team, 4 guys, they didn't get to sail at the nationals because they weren't good enough. Makes me so happy. That's why I personally think women's sport is very important, even though mostly it's a co-ed thing. But you get guys like Mars says, okay, well, I'm all for respect and all of this other stuff, or other members of our community who are very supportive of trans people. That's the line they draw. Sorry. And they always wind up with it. They always wind up with the tip that men are so much more talented and more gifted in physical fitness and activity than women are. And it's a hangover. It's a hangover from religion. It's a hangover from culture. It's a hangover that basically says that women aren't capable. And again, as I pointed out, the young man at Yale who's competing on the Yale team, he's still in college. He's doing quite well on the team. And, had a good season last year, as I recall. Nobody ever talks about him. Anywho, it's kind of what I was saying. I have the. If anybody wants to come into the room, you are welcome. Beck, you want to come up here and talk? We can rail in this stuff, celebrate victory, and kind of moan a little bit about Bill. I don't know. Bree, come in. Anyway, anybody's welcome. Yeah, wait a sec. No, I can go back. I think Bree's seen this. Actually, she sort of clued me into it. Lena, oh yeah, anybody's welcome. Let me remove this tab, this sharing tab. Or no. Yeah, it'll just confuse me. Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm running out of things to say at this point. I'm kind of hoping I was going to be be a judge for a sailing competition a bit of a ways away from here, but the whole thing kind of crashed. They didn't have a whole bunch of entries, so I'm not. My friend Nancy, who is I think she's an IJ now. She's an international judge, and we were going to team up. But I really want to. I'm going to reach out and see if she'd be interested in having a stream about women in sport, particularly in the sport of sailing, what we've done, how hard we have worked. She and I together. We've worked hard to build up sailing as a welcoming sport for women and girls, and getting people into junior sailing programs, and getting people enthusiastic and excited. Hi, Lena. I'll let you just a sec here. Add to stream. Okay. Lena, come on in. How's you?
Is it working okay? Am I lagging?
Working okay. You're a little bit soft. I think it can pump
Can
you
you hear
up.
me a bit better now?
That's better, yeah.
I was gonna turn my mic on too, but I'm feeling self-conscious and my makeup isn't great.
It's
But I know
okay.
friends here, so I'm glad to be on at least just to chat a bit.
You'll always be among us.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Hi.
What is happening with the
Hey, Bree.
atheist community? Hey, Bree.
Hey, girls. Yeah, what is happening indeed? Because I don't know anymore. I feel like every couple of weeks, something else tears the community in half, and it keeps getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah, we don't want to do that. That's what I said. That's why Ohio makes me so happy. I don't. Things like this make me think that there are ways of reaching people,
Well, things like
Maybe
the
Bill Maher, because I think Bill Maher's a, you know,
well, the thing
kind
about
of
the
a-
Bill Maher is it really punctuates, and it's going to give the whole our whole culture kind of a window into the mind of these transphobes, basically, these gender criticals, if you will, because they're totally obsessed with our reproductive organs. That's the only thing that they think about when they think about trans people. We're not like humans with thoughts and feelings and all that. We're either rabid freaking activist, or we are sex objects to be ogled, and there's no there's no in between. Or some, I guess that some of them can look at us with disgust, but it's all about our genitals. I've never seen somebody so thirsty for information on someone's penis than I saw with Bill Maher in that interview. Like, I've never seen anything like that in my life. Someone so desperate to learn about somebody else's genitals that somebody saw in a locker room. That's such a bizarre line of questioning. Could you imagine that line of questioning about anybody else in any other circumstance?
It was the
Well,
same
to be honest, I'm rather surprised that Bill didn't inquire as to the women in the locker rooms hoo-has. You know, what
Yeah.
do they look like?
Well, that would have just been, that would have been out of line, right? Why didn't he ask Riley about hers too? Why she was sitting there? How would that
let's
have
do a
gone over?
gender inspection. Make sure you're really safe.
I will. You say that, Lena. But do you know how prior to
No, I love that you
1998? I think it was 1998 when they canned it. It was in the early 90s sometime, before they went to karyotype testing. The way they used to test for sex.
Mandatory history lesson anytime we're promoting our activism.
They used to, to be qualify as a woman for the Olympics.
Yeah, that's
Get naked, bend over, and palpitate your
Mm.
in front of a panel, usually mostly of men.
Oh, how
That's-
fine.
Yeah. And then, if you passed, you would get a certificate of femininity.
Oh, wow.
There was a woman who achieved a certificate of femininity. Spanish track person got a certificate of femininity. I covered this on another stream. Got this certificate, left it at home. God damn it! Went to Japan to compete in a meet. Where's your certificate? Oh, left it back home. Oh well, step this way. We're not doing that. We're not doing that get naked thing anymore. But we need to take a little swab. Take it. Look at it. Ooh. In front of her teammates. In front of her teammates, gets told, could you? We're gonna have to look into this a little bit more, because there's something odd going on here.
I don't know where our thought leaders are.
She had AIS. She had androgen insensitivity syndrome, had a totally female phenotype. Raised a girl. And they said, well, maybe you want to be sick for this meet, and then maybe you want to be sick for the next meet. And she sued him, and that's why they don't do karyotype testing anymore. Because they got her, she sued him, a whole bunch of other, they were catching, not a whole bunch, they were catching a few female athletes that had similar differences of sexual development based on chromosomes.
Oh, we're talking cis women.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because
mean,
you can be a cis
well, she'd
woman
be-
with XY chromosomes. Yeah.
Technically, you're
But
intersex in that at that point, but yeah. So I don't know if that.
There's no
yes, it is an
uh,
intersex condition, and it's not. But it differences sexual development. But there's again that gets into the what is biology, what is a woman,
Yeah.
where do you
according to expert
bring the whole thing together?
Who was that young YouTuber that you shared where they talked about the spectrum of genitalia?
That was what's his name? What's their name?
Is Forrest?
Maybe just
No, give me a second. I'll find it. Yeah, let me find that.
Has
Maybe
Bill
find
Nye
it.
gone silent on this issue? I mean, where are the thought leaders? I mean, the whole thing with the atheist movement was because it got into the mainstream media to a considerable extent.
and now
And I
we
just-
have
I don't see big defenders coming out.
That was what is it, Dawkins?
Where's
Jackson
Neil deGrasse
Wagon.
Tyson? Shit.
Jackson Wagon. Let me put that in the.
I would love
anybody who
for-
hasn't seen this video should check out Jackson Wagon and their
How
channel.
long is it? Do you want to play it?
I would love to hear Bill Nye come out against Darth Dawkins against Richard
Darth
Dawkins.
Dawkins, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's same difference anymore.
Yeah, right. Oh
Yeah.
man, that's good.
I can play a little bit of it. I mean, I covered on the thing, but let me just put this in the chat. But I'll put it in the oops, where am I? I'll put it in the live chat for anybody who wants to see it. Jackson Wagon, it's really good. But you guys speak among yourselves while I get.
I mean, I know Bill's been problematic for a while now. He kind of did a whole, to whatever extent he was on the left, he left it.
He was only on the left during the Bush administration. That's what
Yeah,
that was his. Yeah,
he
that
got
was his
in on the new
extent.
atheist wave because it was popular.
Yeah, what was his movie again? I can't remember the name of it. He had a
Religious.
religiosity or something like that. Yeah, or
Yeah,
Religious.
yeah,
I
religious.
could see him making the
Okay.
exact same kind of mockery on, gender studies and do just as much of a. Because let's be honest, that movie was not, not that there is any credibility to creationism whatsoever, but even that I would say is kind of being unnecessarily propagandistic with it. His whole attack was on all religion. He did a lot of nitpicking in that.
That's
Oh,
how
for
he's
sure.
described it in the past.
He got a lot of
It
hate
is an
for it.
exception because
People can dismiss you easily when you go for low hanging fruit like that, and that's all he seems to be able to do.
See, we have a young Matt Walsh here. Young Americans for Freedom. These people were around when I was a child.
because, as I said, I think a true resident of the middle circle of the Venn
Sounds the
diagram
same.
would be someone who has the reproductive capabilities of both genders. And no one like that exists. I mean, not to be crude, but there isn't anyone who can get themselves pregnant, right? So I think what you're talking about there are people who have deformities. And so in their case, it would be more difficult than usual to determine what their actual biological sex is, because the usual indicators aren't there or aren't as obvious. But that doesn't mean that they don't have a biological sex.
You agree with me, right?
Again, this is laughably wrong, and I'll demonstrate why by charting some hypothetical intersex people on my handy biological sex settings graphic. So the average intersex male's constellation looks something like this, And the average endosex female's constellation looks something like this. Endosex is an adjective that essentially just means not intersex. It's used to describe people who fit comfortably into the category of either male or female. So these are your average endosex constellations. Kind of boring if you ask me. Intersex people's constellations are way cooler. Here's the settings for a hypothetical person who has what we call Turner syndrome. They have one full X chromosome and one partially or fully missing chromosome. They have ovaries and, like many people with Turner syndrome, had a normal amount of female gametes during gestation, but lost most or all of them before birth. I've indicated this by turning on egg production, but graying it out. They also have internal and external genitalia of the average female. If I were to actually ask Matt Walsh, I have a feeling he would probably say that yes, this person is a female, because they have the ability in principle to get pregnant. Still unclear what that means, but they still don't meet the criteria he laid out earlier because they don't have XX chromosomes. Okay, but what about a person who is born with XX chromosomes, but has testes that don't produce sperm and the internal and external genitalia of the average male? Is this person a female? Do their chromosomes indicate that they can, in principle, get pregnant? The penis might get in the way. Okay, what if that same person's external genitalia is more ambiguous? Are they female now? What about if they also have ambiguous internal genitalia and ambiguous gonads? Are they female yet? Is this person by their nature able to get pregnant? What about them indicates that? I'm so confused, Matt. These aren't impossible hypotheticals, by the way. Everything I'm showing you, to the best of my knowledge, are real combinations that people can naturally be born with. Those last three constellations I showed you all represent people who would probably be diagnosed with what we call XX male syndrome. Okay, but what about a person born with XY gonadal dysgenesis? They're born with XY chromosomes, but ambiguous gonads and internal genitalia, and with the external genitalia of a typical female. So they have XY chromosomes, but...
All right. So what this kid did is set up like using the graphics that you'll see on an iPhone with sliders and and options and a whole bunch of stuff. It's really brilliant. I recommend watching the whole thing because it's just great. And sure, it's calling it, but it's medical terminology. Syndrome, yeah, it's just it is medical terminology. That's how it's referred to in biology. So it's language can be tricky. I mean, I call these people human. I just
And let it be known that for a long time they tried to fix intersex people. They tried to make them fit into a binary, and it's basically child abuse. You want to talk about mutilating kids' genitalia? That's where and when it happens. Is when somebody's
still doing
born.
it. As a matter of fact, most of these laws that were passed that forbid any sort of medical intervention make specific exceptions for that,
which is disgusting. They make exceptions for mutilating children.
It doesn't. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no logic. There's no So, for Bill Maher to call himself a skeptic, or I'm not going to get into pointing out people. I just don't. But Bill obviously is a jackass.
Yeah.
But just you don't get it. You don't get it.
But would most likely be assigned female at their birth because of their genitals. Is this person female? Or how about a person with androgen insensitivity syndrome? Androgens are what we consider
like
the male
Maria,
hormones.
like
so
Maria
a person insensitive to androgens might be born with XY chromosomes, testes, and have hormone levels of the typical male. But because their bodies don't respond to androgens, which I've displayed by graying out the testosterone slider, they have ambiguous internal genitalia and external genitalia of the average female. Again, despite the XY chromosomes and despite the testes and typical male hormone levels, this person would probably be assigned female at their birth. Is this person a female, Matt? How do we tell if they can get pregnant in principle? What does that mean?
In principle. It's just weasel words.
All right. This is the part of the thing that really I think really nails it.
of a person with what we call 45X, 46XY mosaicism. They have some cells with only one X chromosome and some cells with one X and one Y chromosome. Is this person a male or a female? You might say male because they have
I'm gonna grab some
testes,
food
more
real quick.
masculine external
Things are
genitalia,
happening.
and can produce sperm. But what if
Much
their
love,
gonads are
Lena.
ambiguous and don't
Let me
produce
do
sperm?
for you. Let me
Are they
step
still a
in.
male? What if their external genitalia is more feminine? Are they still a male? Okay, what if the person with a more feminine genitalia was assigned male at birth and the person with a more masculine genitalia was assigned female at birth? What then? This isn't just a hypothetical either. This example is based off of real people. While researching for this video, I found this study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism in 2012. I was looking at these tables in the study to get an idea of how to chart 45X, 46XY mosaicism on my sex settings graphic. The tables include information such as whether the patient had scrotal fusion, a micropenis, and the location of their gonads. They used this information to calculate the patient's external masculinization score. The paper includes two tables, one for the female patients and one for the male patients. You may be saying, oh, this proves Matt Walsh's model. There may be intersex conditions, but scientists know everyone can still be separated into the categories of male or female. But then you may notice that several of the patients labeled female have a higher masculinization score than several of the patients labeled male. So I went ahead and reordered all the patients by their external masculinization score. In the case of a tie, I just went by patient number, which means in the case of a tie between a male patient and a female patient, the male patient will be listed as more masculine by default. Of the 25 patients in the study, the female patient with the most masculinized body was listed as more masculine than 3 of the male patients. And the male patient with the least masculinized body was ranked as more feminine than 4 of the female patients. And the least masculinized male had a score that tied the 3 least masculinized female patients. So naturally, my next question was, if they all have the same chromosomal combination, what makes some of these patients male and some of them female, if not the masculinization of the body? The answer may surprise you. In the patients and methods section of the paper, the authors write,
a final group of 25 consecutive patients with a confirmed karyotype of 45X46XY mosaicism were included in this study. We divided the patients into 2 groups according to the gender of their rearing, 18 males and 7 females.
The gender of their rearing. So what makes
Is that actually stuff Matt Walsh was saying, or is that a voice machine that he's got making it sound like Matt Walsh said that?
He's probably making it sound like Matt Walsh said that because it's from the paper, and I doubt that Matt Walsh has ever read a goddamn thing on the topic of intersex conditions, or for that matter, I don't imagine he's ever read anything out of WPATH or the American College of Surgeons or the American Psychiatric Association or the Endocrine Society or anything. I don't believe that he's read anything aside from studies published way back in the day by Ray Blanchard and his ilk. It's the thing is, I've my conversations with a number of people that are on this tip. It all comes down to dick. It all comes, especially dick, and coochie kind of gets left out of the equation because they don't really care, and it's all transmisogyn. It's all misogyny of a sort.
Oh my gosh, I have to tell you something happened to me real quick here before we play this again. It's relative, right? So this person from local person sent me a friend's request. I'm like, okay, maybe I know you, I don't know. So I accepted it and went to bed, and I got up in the morning, they'd sent me messages all night saying hey girl, let's talk, let's get to know each other, blah blah blah. So I get up in the morning, I look at my phone, I'm like, holy crap. So I go in under their site, and it's full of it had like QAnon videos and stuff that this person was sharing on their Facebook feed. So I was like, holy
That's
crap,
exciting.
this person's so I contemplated what to say to them, and when they were like, hey girl, I want to get so I said, hi, I'm a atheist socialist trans activist, you. and they and the next thing I know, they blocked me. They didn't say anything back or anything. They just blocked. It's like, bye.
Yeah.
At least he didn't send me a picture of his penis. A lot of them do that right out of the gate.
Yeah,
And it's
that's
like,
always
dude,
fun. You always got to have that. That's always good.
yeah. Yeah. Then obviously, this is where Bill Maher would say, well, then just send them one right back or something. It's like,
Good
it's
old
not
Bill.
like that.
I need a little palate cleanser here.
Yeah.
I just need to go back to this a bit of a palate cleanser.
Okay. What you got in mind?
Oh, just the good news. Got to go for the good news.
Ohio? Yep.
Sure that in your communications with voters, maybe some people raise that. What has been your argument about that?
Well, some of the best policies that have been passed in Ohio have been done through constitutional amendments. A lot of them did not pass by 60%. Even things like integrating the Ohio National Guard did not pass by 60%. And so we have been able to point out this beautiful track record that we have here in Ohio, where we've made our economy stronger, where we've extended rights, where we've awarded pensions to war vets and raised the minimum wage. All of these things are how we were able to talk to everyday people and get them to turn out and vote no.
Well, we have some breaking news. The Associated Press has now called it. They have now called the race. We can call that issue 1 in Ohio that would have raised the threshold for constitutional amendments to 60% has gone down to a defeat, according to the Associated Press. Organization we're using to make the call. A pretty stunning rebuke here, not unexpected given what we've seen in the last hour, but now we have it official, David. I mean, there was some real hubris on the part of Republican lawmakers, the Secretary of State
Here's for Republican tears.
Gerrymandered legislature. Do this. Do you think there's lessons here? Do you think that we'll get the message here? And what does it set up for the fall?
I mean, they won't learn them. I mean, this group, my worry, whenever they lose, they double down their lawlessness. This is already very gerrymandered legislature. I don't expect them to learn any lessons. But the good news here is that this is part of a longer winning streak for democracy that started last August in Kansas, included some big state house wins in November, the Wisconsin Supreme Court race. There's a pro-democracy army building in this country, and it's starting to figure out that the front line of the attack on democracy are the states and the state houses. And when it sees democracy under attack in these places, this included election denying running Secretary of State candidates, it's rallying around these races. And so my sort of call out to those who are doing this, keep seeing the attack for democracy as a deeper level in the state level. And if you rally like we've done in all these states for the last year, we can put together one heck of a winning streak long term. But we've got to focus beyond just a few federal swing states into all these states where the other side has dominated for too long. Take advantage of the fact that we haven't seen the battle there. When we rally and we pay attention, which we did here, we can win in Kansas, Ohio, Wisconsin, you name it. Because in the end, most people in America want a functioning democracy. They don't want what the Republicans of Ohio are arrogantly trying to create here.
Oh.
And then, of course, for comedy.
Parts.
Yeah, right. I know. I'm just trying to paint the portrait.
Okay, wait, I'll be frank here. I don't use she, her pronouns when referring to Thomas, and I call it a male. I think even using the term trans woman is giving Thomas some of our language as women. And I think trans woman is a subset of male. I do not believe trans women are women. And so I'm saying that up front on the record.
No, I'm basically on that page. I think
basically on that page.
Trans is a is a
Transitive level. Are you
true
going to ask
phenomenon.
about
There are
her
some
dick
people
again?
who are, and I'm sure this is the wrong phrasing, but people know what I mean, born in the wrong body.
Right.
You know, they really do feel and want to be the sex they were not born. I get that. And those people should be protected and respected. That is my position as a one issue
Protected, respected. All those it's should be protected and respected. Thanks, Bill.
candidate
Yeah, but
for governor. No, protected and respected. But I also agree with you that it is a different category. It is not the same thing as women. And you hear women all the time, and not just conservative women, who say, I am being erased.
Right.
And what I do and what I have
Perf,
through life
right.
is different enough. There's difference in degree and difference in kind. This is a very important.
And what is the difference in kind, Bill?
To hear it.
Degree and kind.
This is a 6'4" man, right?
Well,
You can see
because
where
I've read about her. She is the trans swimmer who beat you.
We tied. I did not get beat. I get called.
No, beat you in the locker room with her big cock.
There we go.
Anyway. I mean,
God, you're a
so funny.
disgusting pig. What's that?
Very much so. Very much so. So let's go back to this fellow. It's much more cogent and educational. And yeah, let's just go back to Jackson.
Makes one of these patients male and the other female is the sex that was chosen for them by the adults that were in the room the day that they were born. Quite literally, the only reason that patient 20 is labeled female and patient 6 is labeled male is because of the sex that they were assigned at their birth. This is one reason why trans activists use language like sex assigned at birth, not just because it's more inclusive, but also because it's more accurate. Patient 20 has a body that is, in some ways, more male than patient 6. But we call her a female not because there's some specific immutable biological factor that makes her one, but because that's what the doctor and or parents decided for her when she was born. So while this column of the chart is labeled sex, would it not be more accurate to label it sex assigned at birth? And what about patient 9, who was assigned male at birth but has a uterus? A uterus, by nature, exists for pregnancy, right? So can we not say that this male person can get pregnant in principle? If so, does that make him a female? And if it does, according to Matt Walsh's logic, does that not mean that we have a moral imperative to transition him into a woman? This is a major problem for Matt Walsh's model of biological sex distribution. Because again, he would either have to admit that the strict categories of male and female don't include all human people, or he would have to argue for a specific way of classifying all intersex individuals into one category or the other, forcibly transitioning thousands of cisgender intersex people in the process. Also, this is one study of 25 individuals with one specific type of intersex condition. There are dozens of categories of intersex and countless variation within those categories, not to mention the variation that exists within endosex populations. Biological sex is complicated. Very complicated. Like Michelle Forcier and Anne Fausto Sterling said, it is best represented by multidimensional points in space as a constellation.
Such a great job. Just a wonderful job. So yeah, let's just that's also a pretty good palate cleanser, I think.
Yeah. Well, sweetie, I think I'm gonna head to bed. I gotta get up for work at like 6 a.m. So
Yeah, well, it's 11:30 p.m., so that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
And I pretty
But-
much covered everything I wanted to talk to. But thank you so much, Bree, for coming in. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's been great.
And Lena too. Thanks for joining us.
And
Lena.
Lena,
Yeah.
wherever you are, cooking up that fine dinner. I think that's good.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Well, see you, Bree.
Yep.
Beck, you want to come in, or
You have a
anybody
good one.
want to? Yeah, you have a good one too. Take care. Don't do anything silly. Because otherwise, I'm going to wrap this up, but not before thanking each and every one of you and folks that have been supporting me through some tough times for myself, helping me get some computer equipment that is suitable for streaming and all of that. I've got my Ko-fi in the description. I've got some links down in there. I forget what I put in there because I just really wanted to cover the Ohio story because it makes me smile a great deal. Anywho, see you again sometime. Maybe we'll talk about sailing. Maybe we'll talk about some other thing that either makes me smile or makes me growl. Anywho, good night all.